In this episode of the Factory Fireside, we're joined by Dr. Don Perugini, a long-time leader in AI and agentic computing with over 20 years' experience building and delivering agent-based solutions in the real world. Don is a serial entrepreneur who's co-founded, built and sold multiple AI and agentic companies, giving him a rare vantage point across both the technology and the commercial realities of what it takes to make agents work. We cut through the noise to explore what's genuinely changing, what's still hype, and what the agentic future really looks like, with practical lessons for anyone wanting to understand agents and, crucially, move from experimentation to sustainable production. And for the entrepreneurs out there, some valuable lessons on how to think about building your own AI or agent-based empire.
Say, you go into an organization and you build an agent system. Theoretically, say you've got an agent helps with sales, agent help with financial analysis, an agent that helps with marketing, and that's your agent system. And somewhere on the other side of the web, someone's developed the best financial analyst agent in the world. So in this case, rather than build your own agent for doing that financial analysis, your agent system would transact with that other third-party agent system in order to buy services and do that financial analysis for you. So that's kind of a world where, it's agentic commerce, or what's called agentic web, that we're heading towards, where we're going to have this world full of agents everywhere, and not only are they going to help with commercial transactions, between people and businesses, or businesses, physical things, that agents are going to work together themselves to solve larger problems for both people and businesses. LLMs are amazing, very powerful technology, just getting the world's knowledge and incorporate, which is embedded in language and incorporating it into an AI model. They're not really effective in cognitively reasoning like some other AI techniques. So I think what will happen, or what should happen, is that some various techniques around cognitive AI will start to complement what large language models and generative AI can do in order to solve more complex human-centric problems. In this future world, everyone's going to have an AI agent. I'll have an agent, you'll have an agent, my agent may talk to yours to organize a meeting. My agent may actually talk to an agent in Target in order to buy something for me on my behalf, and search for products, compare them, select all the way through to delivery to my house. The problem we have to solve is that there's health data all around the world that you can't really move. It's very sensitive. It's private health data. So we created an agentic solution, what's called federated learning, where you have these agents around the world at where the data is located, so you didn't have to centralize it, and then you trained locally and you shared these models around in order to create a final model to help with medical imaging.
Three, two, one. Are you ready? Let's get this party started.
Hey, welcome today. I'm Pete Inge, CEO of Insight Factory and host of Factory Fireside. Super lucky to be joined by Don Perugini today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Don, I want to go through your history in AI and agents, because it's a really interesting story. And that comes off of the back of a lot of the conversations I'm having at the moment. Is people are thinking that agents are born out of LLMs.
That's right.
The history is a lot deeper.
Yes.
Now, if you can maybe just talk us through some of your background and some of the work you've done in agents to where you've landed today.
Sure. So at a very basic level, just start with what is an agent? Very quickly, there's the element of agents are intelligent autonomous software programs. So there's an element of intelligence, the AI part. So they're goal directed. They can reason and plan and achieve goals on their own, and they're also social, so they can work together with other agents to get tasks done. And then there's a sense of agency or autonomy, so they can do this on their own. So think of them kind of like people, like a real estate agent or finance agent that does things on your behalf. So I was introduced to this in the Department of Defense. This is back in 2000, and I also did a PhD in AI agents as well at the same time. And the two areas I was doing research in, one aspect was cognitive agents. So how do you get agents to cognitively reason like people in order to automate more human-centric tasks? It's not like the machine learning that we have today. It's what's called symbolic AI, based on cognitive science and psychology, and underpinned by how do agents driven by volition and beliefs. And the other aspect of the research was in agent protocols, which is really important for agents, because agents on their own, they can be useful, but they're very useful when they work together. So how do we create these agent protocols to get agents to work together effectively in order to solve much larger problems? So that was the research I did in defense. The technology was great. In 2007, I thought, this technology is great. I want to go out and start a business and actually use it commercially rather than research. You look at research, but you want to see your technology actually used in practice. So I started a company called ISTD Analytics. This was at my time with my partner, Michelle Perugini. And basically what that was about is using agents to simulate whole populations of people and predict their behavior to certain events. We worked a lot in policy and strategy and the like, restrictions and energy policy. And for example, we simulated the whole population of Australia, 20 plus million individuals, and looked at the uptake of electric vehicles, the impact on the electricity grid, 19 million consumers across Southern California to help with some of their water forecasting and some work in France as well. And we operate out of the Bay Area and Australia. So that's kind of, and one of the really interesting cases is applying that technology to bushfires. So we were told that problem wasn't solvable. It was people are unpredictable in a bushfire situation, and that's not the case when you understand the context that people are in and given situation and the options they have available. Then people can be quite predictable in how they respond. And the whole idea there is you want to understand community response to bushfires so you can elicit the right response and keep people safe.
I first encountered Don through ISD because I was at EY, exiting EY at the time, and you guys were acquired by EY.
That's right.
But not to sort of go into that part of it, but I remember that was my first interaction. We were doing quite a bit of simulation and optimization and things like that at the time. And what really struck me about ISD was just the cut through of actual impact you were making in the work you were doing. When you look at the formative days of machine learning and trying to build machine learning models and get them to work, and most problems you're solving are like very small, imbalanced classification problems. Your models don't work all that well. It was sort of stuck very much in that plateau of hype, but very little cut through, especially when you're talking like 2007, 2009, 2010. It was very formative days, but I was always struck by just how effective ISD was in actually driving outcomes.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because the problems we were trying to solve, you couldn't really solve with machine learning approaches, because you need training data. And a lot of the problems we got involved with were situations where you didn't have training data. It was disruptive markets, how things are going to change. You couldn't use historical data to predict the future. So rather than do that, we kind of delved into how people actually cognitively made decisions, and we were able to create these sophisticated models without this historical data, which kind of surprised a lot of people in the industry that were able to do that using a different type of technique. So
that was company one and exit one. And you move beyond, move beyond ISD. So you get through the acquisition phase and you move into company two.
Yeah, that's right. So went into EY. We left a couple of years later. In 2006, partner Michelle Perugini at the time and myself, we exited EY, and we met a guy at the University of Adelaide, or was it South Australia, that wanted to apply AI to embryos. And he was interested in commercialization, which is quite, and he was doing his second PhD.
Okay.
So that's a very rare, super smart guy, Jonathan Hall. And we thought, well, this is really interesting. So we got together and we started the company Precigen. and had the product Life Whisperer. And again, a similar type of agentic approach. So the platform that underpinned Precigen, or the problem we had to solve, is that there's health data all around the world that you can't really move. It's very sensitive. It's private health data. So we created an agentic solution, what's called federated learning, where you had these agents around the world at where the data is located, so you didn't have to centralize it, and then you trained locally and you shared these models around in order to create a final model to help with medical imaging.
Yeah.
So we did that, and our first product was Life Whisperer. And Life Whisperer basically looked at images of embryos for people undergoing IVF in order to assess how viable that embryo is in order to improve pregnancy success rates. Yeah. And we showed that using Life Whisperer, by doing this imaging and ranking using Life Whisperer, it could perform up to around 20% better than human embryologists in assessing those embryos to lead to a pregnancy.
Yeah.
So that business, went quite well. We were available for sale in 47 countries around the world. We're in Europe and Asia and India. So that was a really good experience.
Yeah.
Healthcare was a very big learning curve.
Yeah.
It's a regulated industry and very different to the previous startup I had, but learned a lot and worked with some great people.
Yeah, I remember my sister-in-law's an embryologist, and so that was where I first heard about Life Whisperer.
Yes.
That the amazing things you guys do. I was one of the things that I thought was amazing about Precigen, the bit that obviously kind of underpinned the Life Whisperer capability was the federated sort of decentralized model. Now, obviously, it's huge application to healthcare, where very private data, but so many organizations just haven't solved that problem in a way that they're comfortable with, of the data shall not leave my boundary.
That's
and
right.
It doesn't matter whether it's healthcare. Every organization has this same perspective that whether it's classified or not, whether it's commercial or confidential or not, they are still very, very tight on this data shall not leave our boundary for IP reasons. I remember having a conversation in food safety, and it was the same thing, is the supply chain of their suppliers is like gold.
Yes.
So I don't care who you are, what product you have, what you do. If this information gets out, that is significant competitive advantage for us. So you can have the best models that you want, but that data will not leave our organization. And so I think it's a really interesting model as well.
So following from that, Precigen, or the Life Whisperer product, eventually was sold to a Japanese manufacturing company, a global one that's in IVF.
Yeah.
And most of the team stayed on with the technology in Precigen, which included the federated AI system. They formed a company called Cubigen. Jonathan Hall is CEO of that. They're using the federated AI system that we developed for drug discovery.
Yeah.
So, and the problem there, kind of what you were saying before, is it's not the fact that you have private health data, but these data around drug discovery is very, very valuable, and they don't want to share it.
Yeah.
But they want to participate in discovering new drugs because, they could also get financially rewarded, etc. But what they're doing is they're using this federated AI technology to partner with different research groups and drug companies and universities in order to access that really valuable data in order to come up with new drugs. And they're doing really well at the moment.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent.
Yeah.
Good to see a South Australian company.
That's right.
They're doing it. Which kind of leads us to the next bit of the conversation is, what you're doing at the moment.
What I'm doing at the moment, the company's called and it really goes back to what I did back in when I was in defense in my PhD, which was how do you get agents to collaborate effectively and transact effectively in order to work together, and not necessarily just within an organization because you have full control, but if I have an agent that wants to work together with an agent that someone else owns, the collaboration therefore becomes more transactional. So the whole idea of Sontra is providing a protocol and a protocol framework where people can allow agents to connect and collaborate and interact and also transact. I mean, it's underpinned by a social network because agents, they're a lot like people because they're intelligent and autonomous, and a lot of their interactions are social. They work together in different ways, and that solves a lot of issues in how to get agents on the open internet to be able to, form groups and get permission who should be talking to who and working together with these protocols to do what you need to do. One of the key applications of Sontra is an area what's called agentic commerce. So the whole idea there is, in this future world, everyone's going to have an AI agent. I'll have an agent, you'll have an agent. Cases, my agent may talk to yours to organize a meeting, a business meeting, or maybe it's a birthday dinner. That's on a social aspect, but my agent may actually talk to an agent in Target in order to buy something for me on my behalf and search for products, compare them, select, just all the way through to delivery to my house. When you've got that type of transaction, it needs to be legal underpinnings and the like in order to do that transaction. And that's what Sontra does. So there's a protocol there that can be, standardized that follows typical, legal process by how agents should commercially transact.
In terms of the market, like where are we at the moment? I don't, because we've got all these things coming out at the moment, and people are asking, like, what's it like? What's an MCP server? What's an agent? What's agent to agent? Where is the market right now?
Not quite there yet. So it's interesting. So the previous two startups built a product. The first one was in utilities. The second one was in IVF. So this one, the market wasn't quite there yet because I've been in AI agents for so long. I was like, okay, they're going to need this. So I've built it before the market is actually there, but it's kind of catching up slowly. When you have agents, as I mentioned before, agents are useful and they can do things for you. And each agent, think of them as kind of specialized and they can perform a task. Then you have lots of agents with different specializations, and the whole idea when they work together, they can solve much bigger problems for you. But in order to do that, agents need to and they need to work together, and you need a protocol to be able to do that. And not only that, agents need to be able to perform actions and do things in the world, which generally are interact with apps and tools. It could be Slack and email or applications that you have on your computer or systems in your organization and data. So there's various protocols that help agents do that. So you have a protocol called MCP from Anthropic, and that was designed to help agents connect into data, databases and apps through the APIs, and it just provided a very easy way to get your large language model to send an email and put something on Slack and integrate with all these different apps that you have. So that's one protocol. You have another protocol which is called Google A2A, which helps agents collaborate. Similar to what Sontra does, it's a protocol that says, "Hey, can you perform this task for me?" And you get a response back after the agents perform the task. So this way, agents kind of work together, collaborate, and share different tasks in that way.
It's a brave new world we're heading into. There's a lot of rhetoric and papers and research coming out at the moment that is suggesting that the cut through of generative AI agents is not anywhere like what you read on LinkedIn. In actual fact, I've mentioned it a few times, the MIT NANDA report, 95% of these things are not getting beyond pilot stage. Fewer than 5% are having P&L impact. A lot of hype. There's a lot of evolving capability, but it just doesn't seem to be getting cut through in the enterprise at the moment. Interested in your thoughts as to why agentic solutions at the moment are not getting cut through in the enterprise.
Okay, so it's very early stages, not from an AI agent perspective, but from large language models, how to get them to work effectively. I think what's going on is it is very early days. There's a lot of pilots going on. People want to understand what they can do. But from one perspective, there needs to be quite a narrow problem that you need to solve, and a useful problem. Sometimes people go into these organizations and make the assumption that LLMs can do anything and everything.
Pour the data
And-
in.
Sorry?
Pour the data in.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
exactly. And they're trying to solve problems that are, just too big rather than try to focus on very narrow problems that provide a lot of value to the customer.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, when you build the AI agent or the agent system, there could be multiple agents in that system, then not only does it solve a narrow problem, but it does it very reliably.
Yeah.
And then you can start to productionize it and see value in the business. So it's really important to be careful about what problem you're solving. Ensure that it's is a problem for the organization. It can provide a return on investment, and it's not too broad. It's very narrow. People seem to think that agents can replace a human. To be able to have software replicate a whole human, what a human does is extraordinarily difficult. So you need to focus on very specific tasks that allow the human to be productive or solves a big problem within the organization that can help improve the general productivity within the organization.
A couple of things I want to pick up on there is, obviously the displacement of human workforce is one thing that is a hot topic at the moment. I personally don't think that we are in a situation where mass displacement is going to occur, right? A lot of these people making these statements have never worked in a unionized workforce or in a normal organization, right? There are a lot of other factors at play as to why that won't necessarily play out. The other part is building agentic solutions within organizations as well, is that we've been pretty deep in it for the last 12 months in particular, and it is exactly as you say, the capability of the agent to stay coherent for a period of time to be able to provide cogent responses on a task. We've gone through iterations and iterations, and we've actually seen pretty significant improvements with the model releases in their ability to not hallucinate, their ability to put in better guardrails. So we're seeing this increase, right? And there's a few things coalescing I think about there. Is one, model improvements. Two is just people figuring out how to do it.
That's
and I think is part of it. But again, to get that into the enterprise, you've still got to get the right question. You've got to get people to adopt it. And then you have with machine learning, right? The old days of you put a model out and then 30 to 60 days later, it doesn't work anymore. It degrades. You've got to continue to evaluate its performance and all those sorts. And the evolution of good eval with your agentic solution, it's still a maturing practice, right?
That's right. And I think that's the biggest issue is it's very early days. There's tools out there, but they're still under development. They're still improving. We're kind of at the start of this journey where, outside of people trying different things, it's mature enough to solve a lot of problems, but as it's developing, you can solve more and more problems as time goes on. So it doesn't surprise me that, some projects don't, maybe last month it didn't quite work as well. And this month it works a lot better because there's been improvement only in the platforms and the models to be able to solve a broader range of problems.
You've got a lot of downward pressure at the moment from boards and executives. That idea of fear of missing out is just everywhere, right? Everybody thinks everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
And so the reality is that they might be trying, but they're not. Using ChatGPT is not deploying enterprise AI. There's a lot of downward pressure at the moment where it's going from the board to the exec to the CIO, who's now going, I want a slice of AI, and they're picking off the shelf something that looks like an AI problem.
Yes.
There's a fair bit of maturing go across the board in terms of how you right size the problem that you're trying to solve, and then just having the right technology platforms to be able to build it, deploy it, support it, and the knowledge of the workforce to be able to actually do it. We're moving through those cycles, and I'm an optimist. I'm long on the AI industry in this happening. So if we move forward and we see all this come together, and so we have this full agentic capability now permeating through the enterprise. Really interested to understand what that might look like for an enterprise. Now, a lot of the people that tune into here might be tech leaders or CIOs within a business. Does this look like a world where I'm a big organization, I have this army of agents now that do a whole bunch of things for my business, but they're talking to agents, other companies.
That's
right. So if I'm in procurement, I have agents that buy stuff for me.
Yeah.
And so I might go, I need to buy 150 hammers for my workforce.
Yeah.
So my agent goes off to Bunnings and Blackwoods and Wink and all these other providers and says, here's the spec I need. Okay, I need you to give me your best price and what you can do and how you do that. It comes back and the two negotiate it and then you get the best price coming out. Is that what the B2B world is going to look like?
Well, that's one aspect of it. Agentic commerce, there's a future where agents, whether it's a business or a consumer, is to purchase things on our behalf.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of this, in my PhD, it was military logistics, but it was really effectively a supply chain problem and buying and selling and kind of working together. Agents can help manage that complexity for us, particularly the mundane of the searching and a lot of those transactions. But there's another aspect to it, which is when agents are buying services of other agents. So they're not buying a hammer, but they're buying knowledge or a particular agentic service, software service. So what does that look like? So say, you go into an organization and you build an agent system. Theoretically, say you've got an agent helps with sales, agent help with financial analysis, an agent that helps with marketing. And, that's your agent system. And somewhere on the other side of the web, someone's developed the best financial analyst agent in the world. Rather than use your own agent, and organizations do this now, organizations don't build all their software. They use software from different vendors. So in this case, rather than build your own agent for doing that financial analysis, your agent system would transact with that other third-party agent system in order to buy services and do that financial analysis for you. So that's kind of a world where, it's agentic commerce, or what's called agentic web, that we're heading towards, where we're going to have this world full of agents everywhere, and not only are they going to help with commercial transactions, between people and businesses, or business physical things, they're also going to work. Agents are going to work together themselves to solve larger problems for both people and businesses.
That's super interesting. What does that mean for the worlds of SaaS and for consultants?
Okay, so from the SaaS perspective, and I think we saw this with OpenAI, they've got a where they want ChatGPT to be an interface for all your apps. I think that's kind of the direction we're heading towards, where you have SaaS applications, but you don't interact with these different applications directly anymore. You interact via your personal agent, almost like your companion, and you'll give it an intention. Say, I want to send an email or send a message, and it will decide whether it should use email or Slack or instant message on one of these social platforms, and send a message to who you want to send it to. So there's going to be this intelligent layer between the human and these SaaS applications or these apps, whether it's even on your phone, that is going to change the way we interact with these applications.
And so does Slack and Facebook and those types of things, as we know it, fundamentally change in the future?
Well, yeah, I think they will. So, the example I gave you, send a message, I want to send a message to you. So the agent, and I've got an agent and you've got an agent. So my agent needs to decide, well, okay, do I send a message through email or through Slack? Actually, hold on a sec, I can just talk to the agent directly. Do I really need email or Slack or Facebook or X in order to communicate with my peers? Because they've got agents, and the only reason you have, you use these platforms or these SaaS applications is because of the human interface. And when agents start to remove that need, then some of these technologies, these social tools and social media may become less relevant or more obsolete when everyone in the world has an agent that can work together.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was listening to a podcast on my way into work this morning, and it really triggered a thought for me just of where we're going with the conversation of agentic commerce. When we bought our house in Sydney, we had a buyer's agent and a seller's agent, right, who's selling the house and buying the house, and they kind of go back and forth and negotiate for the best price. You're buying a material asset, you're buying a house. In a future world, do we have a buyer agent that's not a human, a seller agent that's not a human, and they're battling it out? My question here is that when I'm purchasing on behalf of a human being, and so I'm making a material purchase, whether it's a house or whether it's something more insignificant, right? There's got to be this element of trust.
Yes.
In terms of, you are spending my money, you're making decisions on my behalf. How do we govern and engender trust in the commerce framework that underpins all of that?
Right. So a great example of what an agent is you had an agent that helps you buy a house. There's an agent that helps sell the house. That's a perfect analogy for what agents are and what agentic commerce is. But in the end, the purchase didn't go ahead without your final authorization.
Yeah.
And that's an easy way to approach it. So until there's trust in the agent and the decisions that they make, I still think, even though a lot of the process is automated, I still think there's going to be an authorization process where the human, the owner of the agent, still needs to verify or have oversight on that particular purchase.
Yeah.
And then agents become more trusted, and they can be more autonomous things for us with less oversight. The other aspect is, kind of like what we do today, there's an element of reputation and brand. So I buy things from certain stores that I trust and I know. And again, it comes down to this social network and this social element of it. So in this future world, agents can still interact and transact with trusted partners that do have good reputation and the like. So there's different aspects to it, but I think ensuring there's humans in the loop and ownership of the agent, just to monitor that, and the element of broader brand reputation and the like is important.
Because I know you talk about the social contract as well, almost like contract law.
Yes.
Is that something that needs to evolve as part of this as well?
Yes. The way agents interact should be no different to how people interact, and that's what's called the protocol. And these agents, in order to transact effectively, they do need to follow the same process with that legal underpinning, to be able to transact on our behalf.
Yeah. And so if we move forward, all this comes together, we've got this world where we've got, the agentic web, agentic commerce, and it's all happening. If you think about the world of B2B, where do we see, if we're not seeing it already, the first impacts? So for us, like B2B, we work with mining companies and heavy asset industries and financial services and healthcare. They're running businesses. They're looking to bring in generative AI and agents to either optimizing operations of their business, have better dealings with their customers and drive their NPS and revenue targets. All of that is up for consideration. Where do you think the impact starts?
One aspect is internal, boring, very defined, repetitive tasks internally to make the organization more productive. And help manage some of the complexity within the organization. But I think they'll continue, particularly with the customer focus, and leveraging AI to improve the user experience for the customer. I think it's a big one, and a classic example is ChatGPT now. And this kind of is related to agentic commerce, allows consumers to make instant purchases on through the chat window if you're on a Shopify store. So from that perspective, you have you've improved that customer journey with shopping.
And if you had to put your finger on the one or two things that need to change, that need to evolve to unlock that future, what would you say are probably the two most prominent things? Do we need better models? Do the models need to continue to get better at doing their reasoning, or do we need an education of the market, or do we need better adoption from internal decision makers? Because you might have the technology and the capability, people just reject it.
That's it. Because again, it's early days, and I think there's a lot of uncertainty around what the technology can do and the kind of use cases that are actually useful for businesses. I do think education is one aspect. I do think there needs to be education around where this type of technology is best suited, where it's not suited. I think it would help if there's a lot more successful pilots that, they can go in and they test it and it becomes more successful. Just start having those use cases. It becomes more obvious where this technology can go.
Brilliant. All right. I want to change gears a little bit. We hear AGI, artificial general intelligence, all the time. And I think the goalposts have moved fundamentally since Alan Turing, right? In terms of AGI. But I just want to unpack with you a little bit, because I follow you on LinkedIn, and I think you have some tremendous perspectives in the AI industry generally. Probably the first one I want to talk about is just your definition of, like, in Don's world, like, what is AGI? And then I want to get into, like, how do we get there?
Yeah, it's really hard to know what people are thinking with AGI. Some people seem to think it's super intelligent AI, which surpasses human intelligence and can do anything and is almost conscious. Now, I think that's just completely ridiculous. My of AGI is AI that is so able to do a broad, diverse range of tasks for us. Anything we do, and I do see that as agents develop and as we improve the technology, they can do more and more tasks that humans will normally do, and then you kind of approach this, what you may call AGI, and I've got a very simple, very narrow definition of AGI, not agents can do anything and everything.
If we look at the current landscape of LLMs, and you have the scaling laws, and scaling laws going to persist, if we just continue to throw a shitload of money, compute, data at these things, are we going to see them continue to get better, or are we starting to see a plateau right now?
Okay, so I do believe there's a plateau. Just knowing how the technology works, you can scale to a point and you're going to have saturation. I don't know how much more data they can throw in there that's going to make much of a difference moving forward. So I do think that these scaling laws aren't going to work out, and it's a very expensive exercise to test that theory, because every time you try to run, incorporate more data, build a new foundational model, it's just millions and millions of dollars.
It's all the downstream costs too that people don't think of. It's not just the GPUs and the $100 million Zuckerberg's paying for AI engineers now, whatever it is. But it's the data centers, and it's the consumption of electricity and all those types of things that go in. It's an inordinately expensive exercise. And then you hear like a lot of the rhetoric around AGI is just around the corner. Where's it coming from? I think it's coming from people that need to raise capital, right?
That's right.
They need to keep the story going that, it's just around the corner, it's imminent, it's going to change the world, but we're going to have to continue to train bigger models. Like if you look at Zuckerberg and even Google, like massive amounts, like $300 or $400 million of free cash flow a day or whatever it is they generate, they don't need to raise capital, right? They don't seem to be quite as bullish in terms of the AGI story. So I don't know where to sit.
Well, I think the theory is the AGI can justify the very large valuations. But I don't quite understand what it means when you get there. All your competitors are going to get there probably at a similar time anyway. But I don't know what the business like. Okay, you've achieved AGI. What is changed to the AGI we have now? Is it the fact that it's going to solve more problems or create better videos? Feel the whole AGI argument a little bit of a distraction. There's so many applications of AI that could be useful and provide use to to people and to businesses, and they're just stuck on this. Let's have this. I think a quite unrealistic goal of achieving this AGI anytime soon. So,
and will LLMs get us there, or do we need to be thinking differently? Because I read quite a bit of Jan LeCun stuff as well. Do we need to be thinking beyond the LLM?
I do think we need. LLMs are amazing, very powerful technology. Just getting the world's knowledge and incorporate, which is embedded in language and incorporating it into an AI model. But I don't think LLMs are going to get there. They're not really effective in cognitively reasoning like some other AI techniques. So I think what will happen, or what should happen, is that some various techniques around cognitive AI will start to complement what large language models and generative AI can do in order to solve, more complex human-centric problems. And there's also another aspect to it is, if you look at these large language models, they only have access to what's publicly available on the internet. But a lot of the data and the tools and the resources that add value to intelligence, could be data for drug discovery or private patient data, etc., is not actually accessible, and it's private and the like. My view is thinking of AGI differently. There's a world where you have this agentic web, we have all these specialized agents that have access to the data that gives it this intelligence and knowledge, and billions of agents around the world. It's how they work together to solve larger problems is where you're going to get that next step in artificial intelligence, or getting closer to the AGI goal.
Oh, brilliant. I want to tap into Don, the entrepreneur. You've had a really interesting and rich career.
Mhm.
I talk to a lot of university students at the moment, and they're in this really interesting situation at the moment where I don't know whether there's ever been a better time to start a company.
It's always a good time to start a company, yes.
Says the entrepreneur. But there is just so much opportunity at the moment in this space. I actually had an interesting conversation with a student the other day, and they were in the midst of their studies, and they think they've got a wonderful idea. Do I finish my studies? Do I not finish my studies? Do I go all in on my idea? In there, it's a challenging question. Like, how do you start to advise a young computer science, data science, AI enthusiast coming through the ranks about thinking about embarking on a entrepreneurial journey?
I think needs to be a bit of understanding what that actually means. It's not like getting a job with a company and having a a stable wage and holiday pay. It's very different to that. But there's just this thrill to you've got this deep technology and trying to solve a problem and commercialize it and impact, on, people and businesses in the world is quite satisfying. And when it comes to, I want to start a business and a startup, and it is, it's a grind, it's difficult, but also rewarding. Just, making sure you got, the right mentor around you to kind of guide you a little bit, particularly if it's your second startup, it becomes a lot easier. But when I started my first startup, there was a lot I didn't know. It was quite a challenge, and it wasn't until I surrounded myself with a few mentors that really helped me accelerate how to approach it effectively.
Yeah.
And the other one is try to finding a problem to solve. If you've got technology, it's not always obvious where that technology is best applied sometimes. And what may be an obvious problem may not be a problem that is commercially viable. So working through the commercials at an early stage is worth its weight in gold.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks, Don. That you've taken us on a really interesting journey there. What we round out is we call the Fireside 5 to finish things out. Rapid questions. You can give us short, you can give us long answers as well.
Yes.
So what have you changed your mind on the most in the last 12 months?
Well, the industry seems to be predictable. So, it would have been nice if, there was a few reports on the limitations of large language models or generative AI to reason, and it would have been good if the industry was open to try new techniques and cognitive techniques to get that next level of AI. But I think they're still stuck on that same treadmill. Outside of that, quite surprised that this idea of agentic web is quite slow moving. But I kind of get it because, the real focus at the moment is on building agent systems for enterprises, which is really important. So I think we'll get there, but eventually people are going to realize the value of a broader ecosystem of AI agents.
And where do you think the biggest impact is going to come in the next 12 months?
I think what OpenAI presented is really the big thing that's going to, not specifically to them, but where the world is going. My view is we're going to have this future where everyone is going to have a personal AI agent, an assistant acting on their behalf and doing things for them and interacting with apps for them. And basically, you have your phone, you won't have all those apps. You just have your personal assistant, and they'll decide how you interact with that device, and we'll be interacting with our devices and apps in a more human-friendly way. Text, voice, images, and video. And I also think that may not be 12 months, but further down the track, augmented reality glasses are really going to be where we're going to head towards. The much bigger real estate. You got sound and gestures.
It's a really interesting point. I'll deviate quickly. I just read Satya Nadella's hit Refresh. It was written in 2014. Incredible his foresight in terms of where he thought impact was going to come. Maybe being the CEO of Microsoft allows you to have some influence on that too. But his big three were AI, quantum computing, and mixed reality. And I think he's still
Yeah.
believes in those big three.
Yeah.
And so we haven't quite seen, obviously quantum has a bit to go,
Yeah.
but, AI's come to the forefront, but I'm with you
Yeah,
on the...
but it's a more natural way to interact with your
absolutely.
environment. You've got your glasses on and you can see things, and within a tiny little phone screen, you can talk, you can hear. And what was also interesting is in defense, we kind of had a similar, we were working with AI and we had these virtual advisors, but we also had what was called Focal, a project led by Dale Lambert, a 180-degree screen, like an IMAX theater, to provide that immersive experience. So
I'm all in that, and I've got a 6-year-old who's obsessed with technology, and you watch him interact with ChatGPT and his computer, and it's all speak. He can't type, so, well, he can, but it's like one letter every 10 seconds. But he is fully functional just with voice to text on whether it's ChatGPT or whether it's in the computer with a Siri or whatever it is. Fully functional. And he was saying, like, what do I need to learn to write? I can just talk to the computers. And so I think you got this wave, right? If a 6-year-old can be fully functional, and I watch him play Minecraft and he's giving the actual /@ commands, I think there's a wave coming where people are going to be more about talk and see and all that stuff. And I think the mixed
more
reality,
natural way to interact with computers.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. So all this time, over all these years, there's always been a of how do you get the human and the computer to come closer together, and ultimately, interact with computers like you would another person. And we're getting much closer to that reality.
I'm all for it. I'm still a shit typer. So now, if you could call yourself up the night before starting Precigen Life Whisperer, what advice would you give yourself?
In terms of the trajectory of where we went, this might be a bit of a weird one, but what really impacted us a lot was COVID. So in end of 2019, we're preparing to raise our Series A round, and we had planned to go to raise in I think it was March of 2020. And that's exactly when COVID hit. We had to cancel that trip. And what I believe were leaders in the field were way ahead, were moving very, very fast. And that just kind of put the brakes on our business, and we couldn't raise, and the competitors kind of caught up. So if I had to call myself up as a raise 3 months earlier, do not wait. And so that's...
what do they say about hindsight?
Yeah, exactly.
So will agents replace all knowledge workers in the future, or will humans still play a significant role?
I think humans will play a significant role. Agents can do a lot of procedural work, but there's a lot of creativity that people have. A saying is, "I don't know what I like, but I'll tell you when I see it." So people know, what's a good song or a bad song, or how do you come up with certain new ideas. There's a lot of, and even knowing if those ideas are good or not. There's a lot of human traits that I think it'd be a massive challenge even the next 50 years for agents to be able to replicate.
As that podcast I was listening to this morning, I've referenced it twice now, about the agents and being able to buy a house online completely. The bit that I struggle with on that is you still have this human element. If I'm going to go and buy a house, I want to walk in there. I want to walk around. I want to talk to someone about it. Like me as a decision maker, like as a human being, I don't care how good the AI is or what the tour it can give me. I can't hear the music playing next door from the teenagers that live there. Like all that sort of stuff is still inherently human, right? Yeah,
and it's something inherently human. There's a lot of preferences that it's not going to know about. It's not going to know that you wanted something a little bit bigger, or you wanted you don't like a certain color, or maybe you didn't know you didn't like a certain color until you saw it in the light. And so there's all these all these aspects that the agent is not going to be able to effectively reflect on your behalf.
Now, last question for today, Don. Now, with the rise of the agent, will this result in in an existential outcome for human beings? Are you in the AI 2027 sort of Jeffrey Hinton camp, or you are in the machines of loving grace camp, where it will bring beautiful things to the world?
Somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between.
No, I don't think it's going to destroy humanity. But I do think it's going to have a profound impact on, the labor force, etc. Starting off with knowledge workers, because at the moment, AI agents, the input is data, output is knowledge and services. And then when robots come into play, then there's impact on the labor force. So it's just a matter of how governments and society wants to deal with that, that gradual impact, if it does have a significant impact on the labor force. But outside of that, it's, as I said before, it's not going to just completely replace, everyone's jobs. That's really, really hard to do. Still, it can have, an impact on the labor force, and whether that means people can work less and still get the same pay. That's kind of a world you hope you want to move to, and hopefully it's not socially disruptive or economically disruptive as well.
Yep. So I'm not stocking up the bunker in the backyard.
No, not quite yet. I think we're well ahead of agents, one wanting to kill us. And
that's right. Nice. Mate, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Don. You've been amazing, and thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Before we wrap up, a quick word from Insight Factory.ai. We're a leading provider of data and AI solutions, and we represent the next generation of data and AI enablement companies. We're fully vertically integrated, delivering the complete stack, including platform, products, people, solutions, production support, and methodology, all working together to help organizations move from ideas to real production deployed outcomes. And if you're earlier in the journey, we also help with the strategy piece, from setting the vision and value case through to the roadmap and operating model to make it stick. If you'd like to learn more or explore how we could help, reach out. We'd love to chat. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.